Hey guys, it's me, Sam Stein, managing editor at the Bulwark, and I'm joined by Will Sommer to discuss Elon Musk and Donald Trump's press conference that just concluded. I guess this is the farewell press conference for Elon. It was weird. It was weird.
I mean, wouldn't that sum up his whole term in the administration? I mean, my thought was like, this is just how it began. Elon is being weird. He's wearing a weird shirt, like a T-shirt in the White House. He's kind of looming over Trump at the Resolute desk. I mean, that's his thing, I guess.
He is, that is his thing. We're going to get into some of the moments, although it's tough to figure out actually if there was any news there. Before we do it, subscribe to the feed. We really appreciate it. All right, so it just got off to a bizarre tone from the jump because Trump took a laptop out and decided to play a CNBC clip from the inflation news this morning, and then just sort of sat there with like kind of Cheshire cat grin on his face, listening to it as the laptop pointed out at the press, and then it just got weirder from there. What were your highlights? Were there highlights? I think there's mostly lowlights.
Lowlights. I mean, if you consider a guy having to face the press the same day the New York Times comes out with an article about his bladder issues, I would say that's a highlight.
The article about his bladder issues.
It talked about the bladder issues.
It did. I don't know if the article was about the bladder issues. There's several other headlines there.
So obviously, on Friday, the New York Times has an article saying, Elon is rolling on ketamine nonstop. He's like a downtown Manhattan girly, right? And he's going wild for K. And then, and among the other issues that frequent ketamine use causes is bladder issues. And they say he's saying it's affected his bladder. And then later on, they're like, it's like a bladder control thing or maybe bladder pain. And so then someone gets up there and says, hey, one of the reporters says, what's going on with you and all the ketamine?
It was Peter Doocy.
Yeah. So Peter Doocy gets up there and he says, what's going on with all the ketamine? And Elon clearly has, I would say, a rehearsed response where he goes, oh, the New York Times? Isn't this the fake news New York Times from Russiagate? And they're going to have to give back their Pulitzer? I don't want to talk about that New York Times.
Okay, hold on. Let's pause because that was a horrible Elon impression. Has got to be one of the worst. We're going to play the actual clip now, and then you can judge. I'm not even going to say anything more about it. It was so bad.
There's a New York Times report today that accuses you of blurring the line between...
It's the New York Times. Is that the same publication that got a Pulitzer Prize for false reporting on the Russiagate? Is it the same organization?
I think it is.
I think it is. I think the judge just ruled against the New York Times for their lies about the Russiagate hoax, and that they might have to give back that Pulitzer Prize. That New York Times. Let's move on.
Okay.
Next question.
All right. So yes, clearly rehearsed. Definitely different accent than what Will offered up, but close enough, I suppose. I gotta be honest, I don't want to be too critical of the press, but I thought Doocy got steamrolled there. And then the fact that he just then went to like pure catnip for Trump. I think what he asked about, I have some of the ones here. He asked about Emmanuel Macron and being hit in the face by his wife.
This week there was a video on board a plane that showed the First Lady of France slapping her husband, Emmanuel Macron. Do you have any world leader to world leader marital advice?
He asked about AutoPen and whether Jill Biden should be investigated by members of Congress.
Do you think that Dr. Jill Biden should also have to come in and testify about what she did or didn't do?
He asked about Democratic consultants telling Democrats to act more like, men.
What do you think about the Democratic Party plan to avoid being swept in every battleground state again by spending $20 million to study how to speak to American men?
And then he asked about P. Diddy and whether P. Diddy deserves a pardon.
You mentioned once in 2012 that Diddy was a good friend of yours back then. He has since found himself in some very serious legal trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Would you ever consider pardoning him?
It was just like, I don't know. It felt a little weak, honestly.
I agree. Although, wasn't it interesting that Trump said, yeah, maybe I'd pardon P. Diddy?
Well, nobody's asked. You had to be the one to ask, Peter, but nobody's asked. But I know people are thinking about it. I know they're thinking about it. I think some people have been very close to asking. It's not a popularity contest. So, I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts.
Yeah, but that's just classic Trump, right? It's like he never rules out anything. He's like, I'll look into it. He's like, I haven't really thought about that question. No one's asked me that question, but I'll look into it. Never ruling it out fully, which normally would be a big red flag, but not for Donald Trump, apparently. There were some weird moments other than that. He gave Elon a key Did you know what that key was?
Yeah, so this is interesting. This is kind of like a little Trump signature thing.
Oh, there is a story behind this.
Yeah, so every so often he gives people a key to the White House. And the interesting thing is he claims this key gives you perpetual access to the White House, even when he's no longer president.
Come on.
And what's interesting about, no, this is real. And what's interesting about that too is he continued to hand them out when he was not president anymore.
Who did he give them to?
So he's given one to the former prime minister of Japan. He gave one to Netanyahu. And in the Netanyahu case, he said, and this is worth, eternal access to the White House. One of them was for sale on eBay, which, obviously
Who put it on sale?
Well, we don't. A close member of the inner circle is what the description was. But if that means you can get eternal access to the White House, I mean, what a steal!
Yeah, you might have to get through some security along the way, but could be worth it. That's so weird. I had no idea what he was doing with that key. It just seems so random.
He said, I've given this to a couple people.
Elon was looking at it. Elon had some funny facial expressions during the course of this. He looked at the key a little bit quizzically, and then he did that thing where he kind of stares up at the ceiling and started looking around. And then he had that weird comment about the interior design at the White House. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't. What did he say?
They were just he was admiring the gold trimmings and the eagle on that it was on the ceiling of the Oval Office. He's like, he's really, the majesty of the room is like been restored. It was kind of speaking Trump's love language there for a while.
By the way, isn't this incredible? Look at this incredible, it's stunning, I think. The way that the Oval Office, how the president has just completely redone the Oval Office. It's beautiful. I love the gold on the ceiling.
Thank you. It's pretty nice.
Yeah.
They did talk a little bit about DOGE. They sort of got into, was it a success? Was it a failure? Elon said, well, I think he compared it to Buddhism. Is that right? Yeah, Buddhism.
Mm-hmm. It's I'd liken it to sort of Buddhism. It's like a way of life.
And then he said, we're going to build on the successes. But it's very evident to me that it's a failure, and Elon clearly knows it's a failure. He said, he'll be around and he'll continue to advise. But what do you make of their relationship at this point?
It's strange. It seems like it really, like, at best fizzled out, or, at worst that he's being given kind of like all right, get him out of here. Let's give him one more goodbye press conference. I mean, this comes, of course, a few days after he criticized the big, beautiful bill.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, doesn't decrease it.
When they said, well, Elon, can you tell us about the biggest, greatest cuts in DOGE history? And he said, well, I don't know. We found like some extra Microsoft Teams licenses or some extra software licenses. And it's like, all right, that's like at best couple $100,000. That was what it was all about.
They went through some other stuff that they're like, there's some money for like Sesame Street in the Middle East that they got mad at, and transgender mice, which is the classic one.
$20 million for Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. Nobody knows what that's all about. Nobody's been able to find it. $8 million for making mice transgender. So they spent $8 million on making mice transgender.
And at one point, there's some funds for Burma.
$45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. In Burma. Does anyone know about Burma?
And Trump goes, does everyone know about Burma? And it's like, I think people know about Burma. It's like, it's a country. Yeah, we know about it. But he seemed to be like completely thrown off by that. And then he had this quote where he said they tried to hook up wire to copper and it didn't work. And I was just totally lost at that point.
They tried to hook up wire to copper and it can't be done. But we have a system that's 48 years old and would have a modern computer hooked into a very outdated computer. And they don't hook up. I mean, they didn't hook up.
I mean, and that really kind of sums up the whole DOGE project, where there was really like very little effort to explain, outside of sort of like culture war, trans stuff, as you mentioned, to like justify it. But the thing you mentioned, Elon's facial expressions. I mean, we've got to get into the black eye. Or
that was I was going to save that for last, but since he brought it up, let's play this clip because Elon was sporting just a black eye. And at some point, it got too awkward for the members of the press to not ask about it. And so a reporter just chimes in, and then this ensues.
I wanted to ask quickly, Mr. Musk, is your eye okay? What happened to your eye? I noticed there's a juice there.
Yeah, no, I was just horsing around with Lil X, and I said, go ahead, punch me in the face, and he did. Turns out even a 5-year-old punching you in the face actually does.
That was X that did that? Yeah. X could do it. If you knew X,
I was with his mom right now.
Okay, so you're a father, and I'm a father. I have a 5-year-old, as Elon said. I have never once told my 5-year-old, "Hey, do you just want to punch me in the face?" I don't. Maybe that makes me weak. Maybe I should try it, but I
think
don't want to try it.
They kind of hurt you enough on their own, in terms of clambering. This is one of the strangest excuses I've ever heard.
Oh, you think it's a ruse?
Absolutely. I mean, this happens every so often in public life. Is like a politician shows up with like a big black eye, and they have to explain what happened. Like famously, Harry Reid had a big black eye, and he said, "Well, I had this exercise band, and it broke in the eye." And Republicans were like, "Well, I think he got beat up by the mafia," but. In Harry Reid's to his credit, I mean, that seems like something that could happen. Get hit in the eye. But Elon just saying,
Harry Reid lost his eye. Like it was like pretty bad. It was like a very significant injury. This was not quite at that level, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, but I mean, the idea of just saying, oh shoot, I hurt my eye somehow. I need to explain it. I'm going to say I asked my son to punch me as hard as he could in the eye. Like that's not a very good excuse.
It just doesn't strike me as credible. Like I'm never going to tell my kid to punch me in the face.
And then it turned out he was stronger than I thought.
Yeah. Why would shoot. Like even if he wasn't strong, like why do you want? Don't punch me in the face. I don't want it.
Well, you could leave the eye alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Punch me in the shoulder. Like just not my face. It just doesn't make sense. But I guess it's like a sort of an interesting illustration of the entire Elon Musk episode where it was just like self-inflicted facial wounds, minus the facial part. All right. Any other final thoughts? This chapter of Elon? I don't think it's the last one, but I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about sort of what it says on a larger scale about DC and these tech giants and Trumpism and all that. And I don't know. Do you have any sort of big picture thoughts on this?
I feel like him leaving now sort of illustrates how weird it all was. Like I feel like when we were in it, and it was like
you say that in the past tense.
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, the Elon age may not be over,
right?
But I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to say. I mean, I don't know if this represents like the Trump administration coming to, I hate to say reality, but sort of to like a more, pushing out Elon and sort of like the DOGE era is closing, and now we're getting into more like let's spend in a Republican way.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I think it's like he represented this sort of this ideal that they had in mind that like, the tech giants who, could transform Twitter could do the same for government. And because it's a magnified version of it, they were embracing it. And in reality, it's all, it's just like with Bongino and them. It's like once they get into the trappings of power, like, oh my God, this is actually hard work. And like, and that was, actually, I don't want to give away your next false flag, but this is again, another example of them coming and be like, it's a lot of technical work. There's so many line items. And it's like, yeah, government work is fucking hard and it's not glamorous. And even if you've like, launched a bunch of rockets into space, it doesn't mean you're equipped to do this. And I think that's been humbling, in addition to getting punched in the face by your child. All right, Will, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate that you endured that. I was expecting some more fireworks. You enjoyed it. Okay, good. You're a sadist. All right, thank you guys for watching this. Appreciate you watching our feed and subscribing to it. Tune in as we talk about all this insane stuff and follow these wild press conferences so you don't have to, and that you can digest them in podcast and YouTube format. Take care.
Hey guys, it's Tim and Sarah. We're here with my frenemy, John Lovett from Love It or Leave It. June is Pride Month, and we're going to be live in D.C. on June 6th for World Pride for a very special live show fundraiser featuring the three of us, plus some gay special guests.
Crooked and the Bulwark will be donating the proceeds from this fundraiser to the Immigrant Defenders Law Center to support Andre Romero, the makeup artist who the Trump administration wrongly disappeared to El Salvador and who is currently being held in Secot.
Go to crooked.com/events.
And we will see you all on June 6th.